Doctors and scientists sought to understand the new virus and spread the word, but they were repeatedly stymied by local government and security officials, a delay that would ultimately have immense consequences. On December 30th, Ai Fen, a top doctor at Wuhan Central Hospital, read a lab report that included the words SARS coronavirus. Alarmed, she posted information about the illness on WeChat. But after she was reprimanded by superiors at the hospital, Ai started to keep her views to herself. Weeks later, as the death toll from COVID-19 in China mounted, she expressed regret for not speaking out more forcefully. "If I had known what was to happen, I would not have cared about the reprimand," she said in an interview with a Chinese magazine. "I would have fucking talked about it with whomever, wherever I could." The interview was eventually removed from the web. Ai wasn't the only person to face consequences for speaking out. On December 30th, 8 doctors were called in for questioning after sharing scientific information about the virus on WeChat. On January 1st, Chinese state media outlets reported that police in Wuhan had arrested 8 people for spreading fake news online about the proliferation of viral pneumonia in Wuhan. The following day, the World Health Organization's China office was alerted about this unknown illness that had infected 27 patients with viral pneumonia in the city of Wuhan. Chinese scientists mapped the virus's full genome by January 5th and posted it on a public website less than a week later. Officials in Hong Kong and Taiwan, still mindful of the risks associated with the SARS scare of 2 decades earlier, began to screen passengers arriving from Wuhan. But a simultaneous cover-up was already well underway. On January 1st, an official at the Hubei Provincial Health Commission ordered laboratories to stop testing and destroy samples. Chinese President Xi Jinping began directly managing China's COVID-19 outbreak on January 7th. This fact was kept from the public for several more weeks. The World Health Organization announced on January 14th that Chinese officials had found no clear evidence of human-to-human transmission of the virus. While Chinese Communist Party officials held an important meeting from January 11th to 17th in Wuhan, the city's health commission asserted that there were no known cases, announcing fresh ones only minutes after midnight on the 18th. The Spring Festival holiday loomed just days ahead, a week-long holiday in which hundreds of millions of people travel back to their hometowns across the country. It was the worst possible timing for a new viral outbreak to occur, but life carried on as normal. Local officials in Wuhan permitted 40,000 families to gather for a celebratory banquet on January 18th, driving a further spike in cases. Everything was down to not collecting cases, not letting the public know, Dali Yang, a prominent scholar of China's governance system at the University of Chicago, told the Washington Post. They were still pushing ahead, wanting to keep up appearances. But soon, the virus ceased to be solely a Chinese concern. On January 13th, a patient in Thailand tested positive for the virus, becoming the first known person outside China to have contracted COVID-19. 2 days later, a person infected with the virus traveled to the United States, thus spreading the disease there. China's central government decided it could no longer keep Wuhan's virus under wraps. On January 19th, Beijing dispatched epidemiologists to the provincial capital. On January 20th, Zhong Nanshan, a leading pulmonologist assigned to coordinate the virus response, reversed WHO's earlier declaration by stating that human-to-human transmission was indeed occurring. On January 23rd, Chinese authorities announced lockdowns in Wuhan and 3 other cities, and by the following day, more than 36 million people were ordered to remain largely in place. Unprecedented restrictions that would be implemented repeatedly for the rest of the pandemic throughout the country. But it was too late. More than 5 million residents had already fled the city out of fear of the mysterious new disease. Many of